Welcome to the podcast, Duncan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, we wanted to start here. The United States and Canada are moving forward, as you probably know, with a joint action plan for critical minerals to target a net zero industrial transformation to support the clean energy transition and build a local battery supply chain for zero emission vehicles and green energy storage. The opportunities right now for the mining industry have never been greater. And I wanted to pick up on something you said recently testifying before Congress, where you said that the growth in demand is impressive and daunting. So let's set the scene. Where are we right now?
I think we're at a pivotal moment. In many ways, in so many issues, we're getting there too late. But I think it's a pivotal moment in the sense that we're finally making the connection between the critical minerals that we know are out there and that need to be extracted, and our desire for an energy transition that will result in at least some mitigation of the climate change that we're experiencing on a daily basis. And I think that the pivotal moment is that we've now got enough evidence out there, enough data, and we're seeing enough political awareness of the importance of the issue of critical minerals that politicians are finally beginning to say, all right, we need to do something about it. And that's where the demand issue becomes essential to understand, which is that we're seeing an exponential growth in demand for minerals like lithium, like cobalt, rare earth elements, etc. And we have relatively reliable predictions of what demand is going to be like, but for example, here in the United States, by the end of this decade. And frankly, looking out at global production today, there's not enough of some of those critical minerals being extracted today just to satisfy US demand. So that's really sort of the heading towards the cliff edge scenario that we've got. That daunting element, of course, creates a sense of urgency. And what is essential at this point in time is to double down on that sense of urgency, to make sure that we take the policy, legislative, regulatory decisions that we need to enhance the investment climate to get those critical minerals out of the ground and into our manufacturing platforms to allow us to make the next step. And I would just like to say this, which is that all too often when we look at green energy, the renewable energies, we kind of look at them in a vacuum and we think, well, they're out there and they're just producing green, clean energy, and it just kind of comes from nowhere. It comes from the air, it comes from the sun. Well, yes, it does in terms of the fuel source, but what we're really looking at is actually a complicated manufacturing technological process there, which requires critical minerals in many, many ways for energy storage, for the magnets that generate electricity, et cetera, et cetera. And as I like to say, there is no energy transition without the extractive industries. That's one of the things I think we have just denied for so long that people have forgotten how important mining is, not just to our day-to-day existence, the steel that goes into our cars, for example, but into the products that we're going to need to make the transition to a cleaner energy future. And that, of course, is really where we're talking about electrification. It's where we're talking about electric vehicles, battery storage, solar panels, wind turbines, etc. In all of those technologies, we need minerals, and the only place to get those minerals at this point in time is out of the earth.
It's a really great point, and there is also another layer of complexity. During the latter half of the 20th century and early in the 21st century, geopolitics was shaped by the struggle for oil. Now in 2022, we are moving away from oil. This transition is clearly happening slowly, but the Russian invasion of Ukraine has certainly accelerated this reality. So when we look to the future and we focus squarely on energy security and transitioning to clean energy sources, It is probably also true that the supply of critical minerals could be that bottleneck, as you mentioned. So, how are we going to get there knowing, to use your words, that this is such a daunting task?
So I think that the first thing that we need to do is to recognize that analysts and some policymakers have identified this problem going back several years. Even under the second Obama administration, we saw a focus on critical minerals. During the Trump administration, we saw a focus on supply chains and critical minerals. And now under the Biden administration here in the United States, we're seeing that focus really becoming a lot more intense.